How he's joined this premier thing, and maybe tell you a little bit about how he got here and what he has learned in life, and what he's still talking about, maybe his family and his legacy and his collection. Anyway, Drew, and it's funny because he's leaving tomorrow. He'll be back Sunday, but tomorrow he's doing something. I laugh because he has a good friend who asked him to marry them tomorrow. And Drew is no preacher. He's nothing, man. He is a kid, he's a friend. And they liked him enough, they asked him to marry him. So he had to go online real quick and get his license for $60. And he's down in Waco, Texas tomorrow night to marry his friend Reese. Yeah. So he called all his buddies, and I told him to call Bob, and he called Warren, he called his friends, say, how do you do a wedding? You know? So he's all prepared for tomorrow night. But tonight, I want him to share a little bit about Drew, where he's been, because he's family. And sometimes we hear that we would like to see about the family when we come from who we are. So Drew, would you take just a few minutes?
Sir. Yeah, it's crazy that my buddy called me a month ago or so. I'm filling in for his wedding. I never even expected it. It's very similar to the fact that I never really expected to be in front of you guys today. It's true. I got asked to do this maybe a week and a half ago, and I had no idea what to expect. My granddad told me, he came up to me and he was like, hey, I know, I heard you might be speaking up here at the rodeo. And he thought I was speaking at the rodeo, and which is totally makes sense, because I do that professionally. I've taught team roping for a while, and I had to tell him I'm speaking in front of Premier, and he goes, oh no, we don't want to put you up there just yet right now, son. So when I heard this from my dad, I had to convince my granddad it was all right, that the president said it was okay. So we're good to go. I'm just going to be up here. But no, it is such an honor, such a blessing for me to be in front of you guys today. It really is. My dad said I've been in Premier for 28 years. I'm just going to say I'm 27 years old. I've been coming to Premier events since before I even was born. When I was just a mother's womb, seriously. So I can remember Premier literally from day one, as far as my memory goes back, all the way up until now. I've been to almost every rally every year. I missed a few here and there because I was rodeoing full time. And so I was traveling all the time in the month of July. If you guys know anything about rodeo, so that is Cowboy Christmas in that week of July. That is when I'm gone in Colorado Springs. So I did that. So I've missed a few. I've seen Premier from a lot of different perspectives. I saw it when I didn't know anything about Premier. Meaning I was in Premier as a kid, just watching as a young kid. I saw it when I was about 15 years old, and I started realizing what Premier was about, and the principles and the values it stands for. And I've seen it now, after my rodeo career, as an adult, and looking back on it and being grateful for the man that I am today, because of these two men right here, and their wives, and my grandmother. I didn't mean to get emotional this early. So I'm going to tell you guys about my grandmother in a little bit and what she's done for me. But because of them, not because of the relationship that I only have with them, that's the second part to what I'm telling you guys today, but because of what I've seen them do in Premier. See, when my grandparents started Premier, they told my dad, my uncle, and all of them, they tell the story all the time. If you've been to rally or anything eventually over time, you're going to realize that Premier was not founded for my family at all. I've heard that literally. I could hear it through my mom's tell me when I was a kid. They've been saying that since day one. So it's all I've ever known is the fact that this is not about my family. My granddad, his exact quote that I've heard him say is that if all this work was to enrich one person's life, it'd be entirely worth it. I don't even know where that heart comes from, except for the fact that it's faith-based, 100%. That's all I gotta say with that. But that's all I've ever known. That's all I've ever seen. I'd go to rallies as a little kid, and I'd see my granddad and my grandmother, Grammy, up on stage, and I'd see what they're talking, the message they share. I've seen other people from all over the world get up there and talk about their own stories and what they're doing in Premier, what's happening outside of Premier that Premier's getting to be involved in because of God's hand and God's design through that. I've seen these things, I've seen the messages, the values and the principles that have been just grounded into my head. No joke, like literally, my dad was like, no, you can't go to the restroom, you need to hear this right now. It's a Jim's from Joan, you need to be there. And so I would be like, yes sir, all right? This is when I'm 23 years old too. It's not like I'm like 13 at this time. It's like when I'm gonna help, like, all right. So I had these things just drilled into my head, and I would see my grandparents open their houses to people. I would see them bring in their jewelers from all over. I'd see events like this, where they're intentional about getting to know you guys. This is what I've known. This is my heart. This is what I've grown around, is this event. I was coming to things like this when I was 12 years old. I was meeting people from all over the world. Before I even knew anything about rodeo, I met cowboys that knew more about rodeo than I did. I met people from Argentina, missionaries, ministries, these different things that impacted me and made me who I am today. And I look back on that and I realize, man, what a blessing, what an honor, what a gift it is for me to be a part of this. And that's what I really want to say right now, is the fact that I've seen all of this, and there's such a blessing and an honor and such a gift. With that comes a great responsibility. There's a huge, huge legacy that I have to live up to. We've come off of Heritage Week about a week ago. And I look back on it and I see I don't know anything. Like I wasn't there when they founded Premier. It's 1985, I was born in 89. I can only tell you what I know, what's there. And I can see the examples of what I've seen throughout my life, what I've kind of briefly touched on. But all I can tell you is that what I see in my family, what I see in my granddad, my grandmother, who I'll talk about here in a second, what I see is a genuine passion for people. Is 100% driven based upon what you guys are doing. Like I told you, Premier is not founded for my family. It wasn't. But the fact that it wasn't founded for my family, it's almost as if God knew He was putting me right where He wanted me, and He molded me into who I am today. Even when I'm in rodeo, coming back home to my family and seeing what Premier was about, seeing what biblical principles are grounded in this, seeing the love that they have, the passion they have to share their home, share their lives, and share their just desires with people, to enrich people's lives. The cool thing about this, though, is that me, looking, quote, from an outsider as a little kid, seeing my grandparents do this, talk about gems from Joan and see their passions, what it is. I heard my grandmother, I got to backtrack again. I heard my grandmother, she always talked about keeping it personal. If you guys haven't got the Devo book that she wrote, it's called Keeping It Personal, which is pretty obvious. She wrote daily devotionals about how to build a relationship with Christ in order that you can build relationships with people. If you listen to every single one of these things that was said up here from these leaders, everything had to do with people, 100%. It had nothing to do with making money. It had nothing to do with a selfish gain. All right, they worked their butts off. Yeah, they wanted to go make an extra $500 a month, whatever it may be. But when they got to the parties, when they got to the events, they realized the encouragement that they found through building relationships and this foundation that they had of really building other people up. Through that, obviously, they're enriched, they're blessed, and whatever it may be. It's more than money. It's more than money, I assure you of that. But when I see this, my grandmother had this huge passion, and she played a lot more than just that role in my life. She showed me how to love people. I'm about to cry about this because this is I don't talk about it much. I talked about it maybe 4 times, maybe, in the past. 3 of those times have been in the past 2 weeks. Seriously, past month probably. My grandmother played a huge role in my life. My parents got a divorce when I was 8 years old. It sucked. It really did. My mom, my stepmom, is more than a mom to me. She's Peggy Horner. She's amazing. She's done a lot for me. One of the best memories I probably have of Peggy Horner. Yeah, give her a round of applause. One of the best memories I have of Peggy Horner they got married when I just graduated high school. So I'm just out of high school, I'm 17, 18 years old. All I want to do is go row. Seriously, it's entirely my entire mission was rowing. The only reason I was going to college is because he was telling me to. So I was going part-time college just to be all right, I'm going to school. So I could go ride horses and rodeo, travel all over the world. It was a lot of fun, it was a blessing. But I remember I'd come home from practicing all day. At the time I was amateur rodeo, and it's amateur, it's miniature rodeo, pretty much what it is. And I'd come home, it's kind of a regional rodeo deal. And I'd come home, and I'd be like, dang, she cooked dinner. Like, what the heck? It was amazing. And it tasted great. So I'm used to coming to a home cooked dinner to a single dad at the time, right? So all through high school, growing up, teenager, I'd come home, and I'd get this dinner, and I'd be like, oh, what is this? It's like, he cooked the chicken just enough to get the salmonella out of it. And I was like, what are you doing here, Pops? He's like, all right. He's like, he asked me, is it good? Yeah, and I'm calling Domino's right here. Domino's pizza over here just to get some different over there. But the best thing about it, I came home. Peggy changed my entire meaning to what it meant to be a home-cooked dinner. She actually put a lot of butter on it, sort of putting some seasoning on it, and really cooking it up, and it was really, really good. I love dinner. I do love eating. Family dinners are probably one of the most fun things for me. Going back to family dinners to that, my grandparents opened their houses up. And so that right there leads me right into what I'm saying. I told you guys they opened their house up to big events, public, all of you guys coming in, whatever it may be. Well, they opened their house up to the family. We would have these huge, epic family Christmases. No joke. Some of them were at Haven growing up. Haven of Hope has a lot of memories for us in some different ways. But just as I saw my grandparents serving and loving and being around you guys, that same heart and same intentionality came into me. What I saw when I went to these family dinners, now think about this, my parents were divorced at the time. I have an excellent relationship with my dad. I owe a lot to that man, 100%. I'll talk about him later if it comes to that. But I don't have the best relationship with my mom. I talk to my mom strictly because she's my mom. And that's about every other month, maybe. I love her, but I don't have that relationship with her. So growing up, I had this something in me, I didn't even realize it, this desire. There's something about, parents together and all this, and husband and wife and what that means, especially biblically, and the impact it has. But I can attest to that. There's a personal testimony through this. But growing up, my grandmother was the one who filled that void for me. There's a picture of my high school graduation that they'll probably bring up here in a little bit, and I'll touch on it, but you don't have to bring it up quite yet. It's already there. Yeah. So you can leave that there for a little bit. My grandmother was the one that was a mom to me. She was the one going to baseball games, hockey games. She was the one, her and Papa were asking me about rodeo. They knew nothing about rodeo. Where I come from, nobody does rodeo. Dallas, Texas, where I'm from, literally Plano, Texas, I'm the only person that even knew what a calf was. And I had talked to people who asked me, it's so fascinating. I honestly got sick of talking about what I do. It's I loved it, but people were so curious about what I do. They asked me what it is. In order to stop the conversation, I tell them I was a professional rodeo clown. Just because I didn't want to address it. I was just done with it. It was annoying. But my grandparents stuck on that. They asked me about it. They poured their hearts into me. My grandmother was such more than a grandmother to me. She was my Grammy. She was the one that devoted herself to me. She filled her life into not only what I saw with you guys, but she poured her heart, the same heart that she showed up there to me on stage and talked about. She lived it out face to face with me. And this is cool. My grandmother, she's right there in the dead center, Joan Horner. You don't know her. I know a lot of people haven't met her. She's amazing. She was an amazing woman. She loved color. She did. I remember going to her closet after her funeral, and I saw every dress had some sort of color on it. It was pretty amazing. I get the same thing. Although this is a pretty dull shirt. No, my grandmother, if you see my cousins off to the left here, Justin, Donna, they're all my first cousin, Uncle Tommy. My dad, Peggy, right there. I don't know if they were married at this point or not. Did you have a ring over there? Anyway, I don't think they were. This is right when I was graduating high school. If you notice, look where my grandmother's standing. She's standing right next to me. I mean... So, I'm not gonna lie to you, my mom was there, okay? But I already told you my relationship with my mom. My grandmother was the one that made this picture happen. She was the one asking me what's next. Where am I going? What am I doing? What do I desire? What is it in my heart? What are my passions? And it's so awesome looking back on this. I'll tell you, it's a really crappy day for me. It was an amazing time. It was 2010, it was before my rookie year of professional rodeo. I was at the National Finals Rodeo in Vegas, and I was getting to work the rodeo, so I was getting to rope the extras. You don't have to worry about that. I was actually getting to rope the Thomas and Mack. I was roping essentially, I was playing football in the Super Bowl stadium is what I was doing. I was doing it, get the experience, being around it all. I was living a dream. It was amazing. Well, when I was getting ready to come home the next day, one day later, I had seen my grandmother about a couple weeks before I left town. And I knew she'd been in the hospital. She went back to the hospital when I was in Vegas. My dad calls me, and he goes, Drew? And I said, yes, sir. And he goes, Grammy passed away. And so, I was at the back arena Star Wars helping a buddy of mine. I was serving a buddy of mine. I was getting him ready, getting his horse ready, and just chilling and hanging out. I was packing up my trailer. I sat down on the hay bale, and I sat there for about 5 minutes. And I thought, wow, what an honor it is for me to be able to have her as my grandmother, to carry on her legacy, to have the same passions and desires as she's given me, because that's what I've heard and what I've known. I've seen her talk about it. I've seen my granddad talk about it. I've seen my dad live it out right now. I've seen Peggy O. Pegster, Pegs. I've seen her. Yeah, my dad calls her Peggy Sue. So I've seen her live it out as a mom. She's got her own testimony. Maybe one day you'll hear that. It's pretty amazing. But what I've seen in my grandmother, she was more than a grandmother to me. I hope you guys realize that. She was somebody that filled this void in my life, that made me who I am, and impacted my heart and who I've become today. So when I talk about these grandparents, I want to talk about Andy. Andy, on the other hand, my papa. I don't ever call him Andy. You guys know that. I gotta respect his papa. You just gotta say Andy because 90% of y'all probably, whatever. So I'm gonna refer to him probably as Papa from now on. So Papa, on the other hand, was the goofy one for me. He was the one that always would be throwing footballs with us, shooting us with BB guns, seriously. The low powered ones. But he also got us one for Christmas so that we could shoot it back, that kind of stuff. But he was the one giving us, the fun stuff, crazy, all entertainment. But I will tell you one thing about my granddad. Is growing up, I have realized how blessed I am to have a man like this in my life. I talked about my grandmother the same way, but when I would go to their house, he would walk me into their bedroom. And every time I went to their bedroom, no joke, every time, which was probably about 80% of the time I went to their house, he would intentionally show me this little, I don't know what it is, armoire or something, this little antique thing. Had every single one of our members of our family, all the grandkids, and their kids, their own kids, my aunts and uncles, in 1-inch little frames with picture frames. And he would tell me how he's praying for every single one of them individually. And I remember seeing that. I remember being like, how do you have time for this? Like, it doesn't even make sense. We have 30-something people, and he's spending about, 5 minutes telling me how he's praying for Eric Billingmeyer, my cousin, or my Aunt Andrea, his daughter Andrea, and all these people. I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I remember asking Papa, I was like, Papa, how can I be like you? What is it about me that I can do that will just mimic you or just be what you've done and do what you do? My granddad looks back at me and he tells me, he goes, you know what? I don't want you to ever try to be me. I want you to be you. So when he told me that, I remember being like, man, it gave me this whole sense of, it gave me some sense of ownership. It gave me an identity. It gave me some confidence into this. But when he tells me this, I want you to hear this, you guys need to hear this. When he tells me this, he's telling me this in the fact that he wants me to be me and who God's will and design in my life to be. Not what I want to do, not necessarily my desires or what it is. God gave me a desire to go pursue really a passion and gave me the gifts and the ability to do that. So I went and did that. But he was telling me that I should get down on my knees when I can, and even when I can't, and even when I don't want to. I would be praying for a path, praying for discipline, praying for courage sometimes. He made me a prayer warrior, and I still haven't really quite fulfilled that. My granddad encouraged me to become the man that I am today. He was a leader for me. There's another kind of quick story, really quick. I know I go off on tangents all the time. My granddad walks in the office. I was not there. I was probably mid-teenager at this time, but I grew up and all I could hear was the servant leader thing, right? It's all not in my family. I'm talking like at school and all this crazy stuff. All I heard was like servant leader. Okay, great. What does it mean to be a servant leader, right? There's a lot of things. Servant leader is almost an endless definition. It really is, if you think about it. My granddad walks in the office, and my dad laughs at this story because it's kind of personal for him. It's not, I don't really know. My granddad was the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Premier Designs. When you think about it, Chief Executive Officer of Premier Designs doesn't really go with the values of what Premier is about. When you call up there, what's it say? They say, how may I serve you? Right, that whole thing. I actually told my new boss that today. He was like, well, we're supposed to say that? And I'm like, yeah, so when I call you, say, how may I serve you? All right? And so the next time he actually did that, and it was kind of funny. But no, my granddad walks in the office and says, I don't want to be the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer anymore. I want to be the CSO. And my dad's like, what? My grandmother at the time, I guess, was talking. Just like, what? He's like, yeah, I want to be the Chief Servant Officer. And it's kind of, you've heard that before, right? It's almost kind of cheesy, it's kind of cliche, right? Well, I remember when I was a teenager, I went into his office or whatever, and I saw this little silly sign. He handwrote it. At the time, he could write letters this big. And he doesn't have much sight now, so he has to write letters that are this big. Like, letter A, that big. So I would go in and I saw Chief Servant Officer, Andy Horner. And so when I saw that, I remember being like, what does this mean? I didn't even know really what a CEO was at the time. And my dad, through conversation, I picked up on it, I figured it out. Well, I thought the coolest thing about it was I saw a living example of the question I've been asking ever since I was probably 8 or 10 or could understand what they were talking about a servant leader. I saw a man actually have a desire to live out an example of a servant leader to me. He was leading Premier by serving everybody in it. I told you earlier, Premier was not founded at all for my family. Premier was founded to enrich people's lives. And that's all I've ever known to be in Premier. So that's my heart for my grandparents. I want to encourage you guys for a second here. I want y'all to know, you jewelers, a lot of y'all are newer-ish, right? A lot of builders in here. You guys are all doing a really good job of building y'all's business. I want you to know that Premier is about y'all's business. Premier is about you guys. You guys are the lifeblood of Premier Designs. It doesn't matter what Tim Horner does. It doesn't. He works his butt off, I promise. He works probably harder than anybody I've ever met, and it sucks for me because I have to kind of live up to that because he's wake up before sun and go to bed after the sun sets, right? Which is, it's good. There's some discipline in that, right? But no, he works his butt off. But it's not about what he does. What you guys do determines, it has determined the past of Premier. It's determining what's happening right now, and it will determine the future of where Premier goes. The legacy of Premier is not what my granddad did, what my grandmother did, or what my dad did, or Peggy did. It's what the values and the principles that they've established it on, and where you guys are going to run with that. If you guys accept these principles that Premier's founded on, I assure you, you're going to see success at some point through your business, or your life, whatever it is. I promise you that. I want to leave here with you guys knowing Premier is not about my family. All right? You guys are going to hear our stories and our hearts and whatever it is. And I pray that you guys will come get to know us. I really do want to do that. We do mean that. Because what we're doing here, we're not building a business necessarily. That is a business, right? We're not building this company. We're trying to enrich lives so that you guys can experience life to the fullest. You guys can see what you're designed to be. You guys can fulfill God's will in your life, whatever that may be. And you can make that decision and build that in this free economy, this free market that we have nowadays. I am forever grateful to be in front of you guys. Every chance that I get to meet you guys, every chance I get to talk to you guys, which by the way, this is the first time I've ever done it. So I'm pretty excited to be in front of you guys. And yeah, it's been an honor. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have seen my heart. I hope you guys understand my grandparents' heart coming through this. That's what I want to carry on is their legacy and their values they put into me. So thank you all.